Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live today, where we are going to talk about the importance of holistic medicine in this COVID era. Today, with me, I have a very special person because not only he was my mentor earlier in the field of holistic medicine, but is a good friend of mine and obviously is a world-renowned practitioner of Qigong. But the reason why he's here today, along with his 100 great titles, is because he's a wellness advocate. So today we have the very popular, very kind community giver, Francesco Garripoli, here with us. I'm so happy to have you here, Francesco, today. It's so
Oh,
nice that,
Shivani, I'm so honored.
right, Francesco and me, we know each other. It's been, I think, 13 years or 14 years, and we have seen that how, we both have been in the holistic medicine and helping people and moving. But Francesco has a lot of, qualifications which makes him special. He's an internationally recognized Qigong and meditation instructor. He's also a yoga practitioner and he's a musician. And I'll tell you, he makes great music. You can check it on the YouTube. He is also a brainwave researcher, author, lecturer. Francesco, it's very hard to even complete your definition because you're so full of adjectives. And I'm so honored that today you are here in our community to talk to the professionals who are, this is a community, it's a free group in which professionals from any group are learning Ayurvedic consultancy.
Beautiful.
So they are helping the world. They're beautiful people. They're yoga teachers. They're Qigong teachers as well. I have some from the Qigong industry too, who are interested in Ayurvedic consultancy and they're learning how to bring light to this world,
Beautiful. I'm
right?
so happy to hear that. It's amazing what you're doing.
Right. So here it's a special era going on where we are in this, very different situation to the normal. I mean, what is the new normal today? Couldn't be imagined years before, right?
No,
So you are a Qigong teacher. So I have called you here to put in some chi into our professionals and ignite them to help the world. So could you tell me, like, when did you actually start feeling the power of, Qigong? When was that aha moment when you thought like, that's it, because I know you were also in Hollywood and you were working with music and you had this awards and, you were a producer. So you had this great things, which were totally apart from the holistic world. So you made a journey completely into the holistic medicine. So when was that when you really felt the power of Qigong? Could you please share the story?
of course. Well, we all have short stories, right? Each of us, everyone here in this community has a story that has brought them in. And that's what brings us into a heart center. So for me, I've always been interested in these kind of things like meditation and spirituality ever since I was a young one. So
Hmm.
I got a full scholarship to go to medical school. So actually, I was in my pre med studies at university,
Hmm.
very frustrated when I started to understand oh my goodness, what the allopathic medical approach was. I had a whole different vision. So I got a little bit frustrated, but by good luck and karma, an old doctor who's in his 80s took me under his wing, took me out of university, and I went to go study with him in Hawaii. So 2 years of studying with him, the energy healing arts and meditation and Eastern philosophy, all of a sudden I started to realize what was in me and what made me frustrated about Western medicine. But
Right.
then, as it happens, you get to a certain level in your training, and to get to the next level, just like in quantum physics, we know energy levels have to jump to higher levels, and they're never fun and they're never smooth. So for me, I got into a terrible car accident.
Hmm.
And now looking back 40 something years ago, I know exactly why that happened. And I won't share it now, but it was part of my spiritual journey. And I knew that from my 2 years of studying with this master, who I was still with, living in his clinic, treating people every day. So now I'm in a wheelchair. And before I was even in the wheelchair, I was in a body cast. And I was told I never could walk again. So imagine being in the hospital back then in the 70s. This is the late 1970s. And the doctor tells you you'll never walk again. And you look at your body in a cast, and now you're confronted. You're confronted with your truth, your principles, what you've learned, and you have to put that to the test. And
Right.
we always come to this moment. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. I call it the golden light of the soul, because that's the moment you have the opportunity to face your stuff.
Right.
And that's what I did. And I used everything I had learned, everything I had intuited, to go through my body and start to work with chi, work with life force energy, so I could repair broken bones, especially when doctors told me, you'll never be able to put pressure on this leg again. This is crushed, these kind of compound fractures. I mean, I did a good job. When I do things, I'm really good at it. I go full on. So I had to now use these techniques to both use my interoception to look inside my body. I actually had to make the doctor, the surgeon, redo something because I pointed out something that was wrong. I mean, imagine your patient telling you what you did. And it was because of my teacher, my master teacher, being a physician, he was able to call the doctor and convince him to go back and redo a surgery. So this
Amazing.
is what, right? And it's mind boggling for some people, especially physicians and people locked in this. But my teacher knew exactly. He said, listen to your body. And that's kind of our message as healers and people who want to help other people. You've got to be that model. You've got to model and live what that is. So by me learning how to work with that, my next years, it's been 40 years now, have all been a continuation of that experience of learning how to heal,
Hmm.
how to use your body, your temple, as is your best schoolhouse to learn from. And your body will always teach you. And that's the best way we can teach other people, Shivani.
Exactly, Francesco. And Francesco has told me the story 15 years ago when we met the first time, and obviously we did the project in Hawaii together, but that was the first time when we met. And I was just starting my Ayurvedic career at that time. And when I heard this story, I'm like, well, that's inspirational. There is power in the nature. And Francesco's story really, grounded me and told me that, okay, you have to be in this field of Ayurveda because people do need to feel the power in their body. Because Ayurveda talks about it as a perspective of prana, the prana you have inside yourself to heal. The words change, but the essence is the same. And I had a very sickly childhood to the fact that, one day I had such high fever that my neighbor said to my mom that she's dead, put her on the floor. Like I was so sick. And from there I have risen. So when somebody sees me healthy today and thinks that it's a gift, no, it's a work, like you after your work of qigong, you're showing the model of how it works. So I also am the model of plants and food and thinking mindset. And we all start our personal journeys with healing ourselves. And this is an amazing story. I love to listen to it again and again because I'm a very visual person and I can imagine that, you waking up in the cast with your energy, promising yourself to heal again. That's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a reflection of all of us. We all do it to one extent or
Right,
another. And we have
right,
to remember the value of these personal experiences, because this is when we're really put to the test
right.
of our truth. And sometimes we lose faith, right? Don't you think, Shivani? Sometimes we
Yes,
lose faith in what we studied, what we read, what we may
right.
have felt at one time. And then all of a sudden we think, oh, maybe it's not real. But it is. Prana, chi, the
Yes.
energy of life. For those of us who can sense it, our responsibility then is to share with others who maybe aren't that aware yet.
Very true. I think I wonder sometimes how people live without this information. Like what kind of life they're living, not really connected to their bodies and not really knowing how to, treat it and listen to it. Like you said, you could just know that they have fixed something not right in your body. How do the people live without it? You know?
Well, we
And
we know how they live. We look around us and we see a
yeah,
world that's in chaos because people have shut down their intuition. I call it the intuitive
definitely.
mind.
Yes,
The
yes,
intuitive mind is driven by the heart center.
it
Okay,
is.
so when that fifth chakra is turned off, when we are shut down from our spirit self, our
Right.
shen qi, we say in qigong,
Mhm.
all of a sudden your intuition can't help you, and you only go for materialistic solutions. And then people eat terrible food, they forget to practice their exercise, and then their body goes into decay. Then they have to look to the allopathic doctors who only know about symptoms, and we see what happens. So
Yeah,
that's why it's so important what you're sharing to people. It's critical right now.
exactly. And I think like this is very important to know that considering all the media we are exposed to today and all the information which is out there about everything, we are totally lost with what's right and what's wrong. And that's where
Yeah,
listening into our body, into our intuitive side, into our heart, into our creative visualizations, apart from
critical.
just our brain, is creating this new generation of humanity which is more conscious and required for the current situation.
Amen. I agree.
Right. So, what do you think? Because I have been in the holistic health industry for a long time, and because of Ayurveda, I meet a lot of special people, including you. So, what do you think, what do you think that holistic health workers, considering today's situation, need to believe or take responsibility for in this post-COVID era, or it is still the COVID era going on. So,
Yeah.
what do they need to do? How do they need to believe that they are capable of healing people? Because, how the school medicine is, it's always saying that, okay, you know less as a holistic worker. We doctors know more. So how can we raise our vibrations as a holistic healer?
Yeah, that's such a good question, Shivani, and it's what everyone faces. I teach workshops. I mostly now I teach teachers to be teachers, so I do instructor certification. So I'm facing people around the world who are on the front lines as instructors. Maybe they're massage therapists and qigong instructors, or maybe they're counselors and qigong instructors. So they've got different things that they've added qigong on as a layer to give them that core strength, because without that core strength, you face a world that's very powerful. And why is it powerful now in this, we'll call it the COVID era? It will go down in history. We are living in history because there's never been a time that the global community has fallen into such fear and darkness that we
Definitely.
ever. So if you know that it's fear driven, if people are running out and doing things that don't make any sense, they're driven by fear. And that's usually associated with the survival mind. Remember, we talked about the intuitive mind. There's the intellectual mind, but the intellectual mind can be completely shut down by the
Definitely.
survival mind. So, as holistic practitioners, we've got to identify those three minds, understand when your survival mind is triggered by fear, could be by any of the base emotions like anger and grief, but fear is the big one right now. And
Yeah.
that will shut down your intellectual mind. And of course, bully out your intuitive mind, which is your heart centered mind. So
Mhm.
for holistic practitioners, we've got to recognize that process, understand what's happening to people, and then look in the mirror and say, is my heart centered intuitive mind my guide? And if you can say yes, you're on the right path. If you notice where the survival mind, your fear might be coming in, your intellect may be judging and questioning, those two minds are very tricky and they're like bullies. But when we can give them permission to be calm and allow our intellectual, heart centered, heart resonance to guide us, a holistic practitioner will be on fire. Your intuition will be so clear that you'll know what your clients need and you'll know what you need. And then you model, like we said before, you model what it means to carry that pranic energy. You model that chi field. In Qigong, we call it the Wei Qi field, this energy around us. It's actually inside every atom in our body, every molecule, every cell. But in this way, we can have a confidence, Shivani. And I think we need confidence now because we're seeing a world driven by non scientific, fear based decision making. And
Definitely.
I look at, and I look at places where, you're in India. So you look at Uttar Pradesh, they made a conscious decision as a state with 250 million people not to get vaccinated. And they went on an ivermectin protocol. Whether you believe it or not, or agree with it or not, I watch things data based, epidemiologically, scientifically based, and I watched their COVID deaths go to zero by going back to their traditional way and not
Right.
coming to a fear based, big pharma based, which is corporate, is just comes with fear. So I think as a practitioner, Shivani, we need to stay heart centered and trust. And if you do your practice, that means you've got to do your yoga or qigong or meditation too. You can't just be reading books. I think the
Right.
personal practice is critical, and that's the yogic way. You will be empowered.
Right. So what I hear is like the when that you have to be more not reacting to your emotional limbic system,
Critical.
right? And not to the survival system, but calm yourself down with holistic medicine, whatever you do, and reach and trust that area, strengthen your practice, and then radiate it to others. And this is something, because, Francesco, in the end, I'm a doctor, so I'm always taking care of all the holistic practitioners' health. And I
Of
have seen
course.
their health going down. And the reason why they're have this is happening is because most of the Pita people are taking so much pressure that, and they're so dedicated, to help the world, that they're losing their own health. And on the other hand, the ones who are the air type are so scared of what will happen with the world with these things, events going on, that they're not able to concentrate on one thing at a time. So they're just running around trying to help. So being centered, what Francesco said, being centered, being grounded, trusting your intuitive power, and taking care of yourself.
Yes, it's very true. And let me add something here. When we could find our core heart center, you will shift, and it's good to know it for the intellectual mind so we can map it into our being. You will shift from sympathetic, okay? It's not only the sympathetic nervous system, but it's the sympathetic vibration we have when you have a patient or a world that's out of balance, out of harmony. If we want to be sympathetic, oh, it sounds so good, you end up sympathetically vibrating with their energy and you're no good to them anymore. You can't
Right.
help anybody. But when you're empathetic, that heart centered core of empathy means instead of sympathetic vibration, where I'm moving with the energy around me, empathetic vibration is I fully feel and resonate with this chaos around me, yet I hold my neutral core. That's critical. So we've got to
Beautiful.
shift from sympathetic to empathetic. This is critical for all healers.
Right, right. It's the same in the Ayurvedic language. We would say you have to reduce the rajas, the highly active force,
Exactly.
which is running around and trying to validate your ego, or it's trying to validate, the fear which is inside you, trying to take some action, and just, meeting that with your centered core, with your heart, with your intuitive side, and seeing what can be done from a place of being centered rather than being lost in all this chaos, right? So that's a beautiful
Exactly.
example.
And it
Because
takes a lot less effort that way too, for heaven's sakes.
definitely, definitely. But we all are in, like Francesco told me once, and because when I was, we are still young, Francesco, but when I was more younger, at that time, I used to feel a lot of anger for people who were damaging their body. And I used to feel like, why don't they realize this, that they shouldn't be eating like this? And Francesco told me a very important word. He said to me that, some people learn in one life, some need two lives. You need to leave them, Shivani, and help the one who need your help.
Yeah, it's
Do you
true.
remember that?
Yes, I
That
do, and that's part of empathy. And it takes a big person, we'll say. It takes a conscious, awake person to hold that empathetic view and understand where people are. And that's hard sometimes, especially when it's family members, right? How many of us have people in that category in our friends circle or our family circle? And we know what can help them, but they're not ready for it. That's okay. There are a
that's the
lot of
thing.
people who are
Yeah,
ready. And at some point, if you model it, I think they'll come around. They do in my
exactly.
family. I have a giant Italian family. All the ones who thought I was crazy are the ones who are lining up for coaching and counseling now.
Right,
And when they have health issues, who do they go to? So
right.
it's
I mean, it's difficult to see your family suffering. So as you
yeah,
learn something, you first run to them to help them, and you know, and you can see, especially in this COVID era, you want your parents to have your health better, you want your children to have their health better, but they're just not stopping. So I think that's where the most important sentence as a holistic health worker, what I heard from him was that be ready and help those who want your help and appreciate it.
Yes.
right?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me like how can a person feel more confident, as a holistic health worker? Like how can he be more strong in his messaging and who he wants to influence? How does that work?
It's difficult because that's the one thing your confidence gets chipped away at. Like your car, you're sculpting something. That confidence that we carry is chipped away when we're around a world of fear or people who question, people who are in that limbic driven, amygdala driven, reptilian mind fear. That's a powerful force, and it's
Right.
never to be underestimated. So a lot of people lose their confidence without even realizing they're losing their confidence. They start questioning themselves. So I think we need a personal practice where you can really go in every day like a mantra. Why do you think mantras have been around for thousands of years?
Yeah.
Because they're ways to reset our intuitive mind, reset our personal energy field. And we have to do this sometimes. Don't think you're stronger than the fear of this world. It's a powerful force, but you can rehabituate yourself by creating a new habit of your personal practice. And you can do
Hmm.
that with breathing. I think breathing and quiet meditation, it doesn't have to be more than a few minutes a day, but you could do it a few times a day to continually come back to your core, come back to resetting
Beautiful.
who you are. And I think this will set up a new pattern because humans are pattern oriented. So
Definitely.
we can
Yeah.
get into patterns that other people push on us, but when we create our own pattern, keep resonating with that heart centered, it's got to be heart centered. Trust me, nothing else will work. It can't be an intellectual mantra, it can't be a survival mantra. It's got to be something you can say to yourself to reset your trust at the heart level. And now it's part of every breath.
I think that's what's missing in most of the holistic health practitioners is because they're missing their own daily practice. And like you said,
Exactly.
they're being hammered and chipped. So they need to kind of build it up every day to be more confident in their practice and their messaging. And without self practice, it's very hard to just keep on giving without receiving. So that's a beautiful
Yes.
message. All right,
Mm.
so that's beautiful. But last but not the least, so this is a group of professional. Everybody is getting drained, and you know why. So I would like you to give us this one exercise or one thing we could all do together so that we can feel more energy when we are feeling tired.
Beautiful. I've been teaching qigong for maybe 30 years now. So I picked qigong. I mean, yoga is my personal practice as well. So I mixed qigong and yoga together. But I found that the kinesthetic aspect of qigong and yoga is what's so important because we
Right.
can get in our heads, right? We can get in our heads easily, especially when we're in a world where we feel we have a good protocol to help with somebody, but they're telling you what their doctor's telling them. It can be very confusing when we're up in the intellectual mind. So kinesthetic stuff can bring us back into our body. We've
Mhm.
got to get back into that body temple. So let's do a very simple exercise because if you're sitting, we'll stay sitting here
Mhm.
and bring your hands together as if you're holding a ball. And remember, this isn't just a pretty picture. In Qigong philosophy, this point here in your palm is called Lao Gung. This is connected to your pericardium.
Mhm.
Okay, so where our heart chakra is a critical place. So now we're bringing the visualization of that heart chakra out into space. Okay, it's not just locked inside some cauldron here anymore. You've taken this heart chakra and you've identified it as a part of you. You've objectified with it. So now start to roll it. Again, kinesthetically, we're sending the message through our body motion that yes, I do trust this, that my heart is an energy, this shen chi, heart prana, that I can identify with, and it's real. So this movement helps you to visualize it and bring it out into tangible space. Now, what's beautiful here is you're setting a circuit. We know everything in life is a spinning toroidal kind of energy field. So hold that field and breathe into it and breathe into your belly, deep abdominal breaths, exhaling squeezing, and then inhale into the sphere. Exhale into your belly. Exhale, squeeze your abdominal muscles, and then inhale back into the sphere. As if each time you're inhaling, you're feeding that heart energy. You're drawing the prana out of mind stuff and into world stuff, into this energetic field that you can sense. And when you could radiate this pranic field, this chi field around your heart, you realize the heart isn't trapped in your body. Your heart, the capital H heart, that energy, that heart chakra energy is now feeding your energetic field. The Wei Qi field, the energy field around your body, that pranic field now is filled with this heart energy. And what is your greatest protection? The ancients felt that this field of energy around us was part of our immune system. So your immune system, your immunity to toxic influences, and that could be anything from a bacteria to a virus to people to global energies, is now being built. Your protective field is being fed from this radiant golden energy inside this rolling heart sphere. And one more thing you can do, which is useful, once you've built that strength around you, you can place a challenge you have inside that sphere. So think of anything that you've been facing recently. Again, it could be a challenge with a person, it could be a challenge with a situation, it could be some edge challenge that you've come up against a wall. Place it inside this rolling sphere of heart energy. See how that golden light can shine on the darkness and transform. Every healing practice that's worth anything has a transformational component to it. So take whatever that challenge is and feed it into the heart energy. Trust your heart is strong enough to face anything and everything, and then transform it. Transform it into light. Transform it into love. Whatever you can sense is the transformational, transmuted version of that challenge, you do it inside this sphere. So bring your hands together a little closer, as if you're compressing that whole heart energy. Everything about that Shen Qi, that spirit Qi, bringing your hands really close together, almost touching, but not physically touching. And see that sphere compressed into powerful yin, feminine goddess energy within you. Still turning, still moving, only without the physical component, now with your heart-centered, spirit, intuitive component. And slowly bring your hands over your chest and bring everything that you've done in that exercise into your body, into this body temple. Feel that golden energy now in your heart, and trust that you've just built your confidence, your immune system, and your awareness to model the energy required to do what is being asked of you, and the beautiful gift you've chosen on this path to be a healer and to support others.
That's
And
beautiful.
relax. You know, good exercise, simple exercise, but a reminder that can bring us back to our power and our truth, Shivani.
Right. Right. For seconds, I was so lost in the meditation, I forgot to move my hands.
Yeah, it's okay. It's moving. Trust me. Energy is moving
Yes.
always, infinitely.
Right. That's a beautiful exercise, and I think this is very useful for all the holistic practitioners to kind of trust themselves and bring the light in this world, and never think that whatever you're doing is small, because every help in today's era is really needed for helping people, for bringing this change. And it was really a very nice demonstration. Thank you, Francesco, so much for joining us today. And
Oh, that's my
I
treat.
hope we will have some more opportunities to learn some things from you for our audience, and you will continue to help the community with some beautiful exercises in the time of need.
Yes, and all these practices work together. Remember years ago, I brought a big Qigong group, 20 people, 22 people to Dharamsala to be with you. So
Right,
even though I
right,
may be teaching them Qigong, I know the value of opening our heart up to know that there's lots of solutions. And there's a beautiful way for Ayurveda to mix with yoga, to mix with Qigong, to mix
right.
with meditation. And then you find out what works for you. And that's what makes us our unique self. So thank you for
Yes,
everything that you're doing,
yes.
Shivani,
Thank you very much.
to
Thank you.
inspire people.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was so nice to have you. Thank you, all the people who were live today and the ones who are watching the replay. If you have any questions, you can leave it for Francesco. I will make sure it gets to him and he will tell you some answers because he has, great sense of intuition, which I really admire. So you can put the questions in the chat and we'll get back to you with the answers, you know. So, a good health and a good evening, a good day to you. And I will be back with more inspiration in our beautiful professional community, inspiring the world to integrate and help people with whatever they know and strengthen this bond of unity in between all the holistic practitioners. Thank you and bye bye.